Qualitative data collection is a way of getting rich data through expression of emotions and feelings. The three methods to obtain qualitative data are observation, interviews, and questionnaires because we can get certain phrases from these and then see if we can identify any underlying themes or emotions. We have several methods that are used for qualitative data. We have three types of interviews: structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. Structured interviews are set interviews with a particular guide of questions that you have to follow without making any changes regardless of the participants' responses. This is a good way of interviewing because it is quick and there is no deviation of any other response in the conversation. It is straight to the point, and furthermore, the researcher can control the choice of questions, which makes it quicker because they can choose certain questions that will get the best data out of the interviewee. It is also fair on all of the participants because they get the same questions, and researchers can then analyse this easier at a later date as all of questions will come under the same topic. However, if there is a guide, participants may not know an answer and therefore lack detail when answering, which will mean for that particular question there won't be much data to get from it. Lack of detail also means that you can't probe and give help if they get stuck when answering a question. Due to this, there is no deviation, so the researcher cannot build a relationship with the interviewee. An example would be interviewing a young female gymnast based on the types of exercises she does to keep her flexible and asking each participant on the same set of questions. So each one would be asked, when do you stretch, how long for, is this before and after every performance, etc. Unstructured interviews are where there is a start question, but then the conversation flows from there. You must be skilled at focusing a conversation to get a lot of data from this type of interview. An advantage to this means that the whole interview is more flexible because you can chat as much as you wish. However, there is a potential to waste time by going off topic and losing concentration. You can also get too much data this way, which could be a problem when coming to analyse it later. However, it does mean you can engage with the interviewee and build the relationship that you can't build in structured interviews. Furthermore, talking with no guide could lead to other topics that you didn't consider, which strengthens your data. An example would be starting off with the same question about nutrition for each participant, so what do you typically eat on a performance day, and then letting the conversation flow. Semi-structured interviews is an interview that follows the guide of questions, but the interviewer is allowed to probe further follow-up questions to get more information out of the participant. This type is more laid back because you have a set guide, but can also go off topic and have a conversation which will put the interviewee at ease. By doing this, you can build onto answers if you, as the researcher, feel that their answer lacked detail, so you can follow up with another question to get more data from them and information. But there is a potential for researchers to probe and not get the answer they wanted. You can also again be at risk of going off topic and taking a lot longer than the interview is designed to. An example would be starting off with the question, do you stretch before and after performance? The gymnast would give her answer and then letting it flow. And for example, if she said, I tend to do it in the morning and then just before a performance, you could then add a question like, why is this, to gain more information, although this follow-up isn't necessary, and you could just go on to the next question. Focus groups are group-based interviews where the group interaction is an essential aspect of the data collection, and these tend to be semi-structured as well. They can provide you with a better quality of data because the discussion gets deeper as the group develops ideas. They are a good way of finding out opinions and ideas, so there is a lot of data within a short space of time. You can also observe group dynamics and see how well they work together as a team. In addition, you can see how it flows as a conversation because one person at a time inputs their ideas and the next person will do this too, and then it will repeat. However, sometimes there are dominant characters within the group who can make certain people feel intimidated, and so not everyone is involved. People's opinions can also influence other participants' answers if they feel they are right or wrong. So, for example, a group discussion a topic could be the different events of gymnastics and which person feels they are more interested in. So they each give their opinion on why they like the type of event in gymnastics, and obviously will be different opinions on it. Questionnaires are a set of written or printed questions with a choice of answers, devised for the purpose of a survey or statistical study. Participants can read and understand the questions in their own time, and it gives them more time and options if it is a multiple choice based paper, and without a researcher present could mean they'll be more likely to be honest. On the other hand, without anyone present could mean that the participants might skip questions because they don't understand. Participant observation means that the researcher is actively involved in the topic they are researching. For example, if you were studying flexibility in GB gymnast, you could join in on a training session so you're observing from the inside and gain your own experience. Advantages include being able to see how participants act separately or as a group, as you can see them in their natural setting, and it is an immediate process because you are seeing it right in front of you. This also makes you have more of an in-depth understanding of what you are researching. However, again, there is a time issue because it depends on how long you have to observe for, and also the role conflict as the researcher needs to be professional, but at the same time get the data he or she needs and will need to engage and speak to the participants, which may influence the data and their decisions or how they act and their behaviours. Non-participant observation involves the researcher observing from the outside. There is no interaction with the individuals or the activity being observed. For example, if you wanted to look at injuries during a gymnastics competition, you could watch how many injuries happened, what types they were, and then record them. This is an advantage because you're watching athletes in their natural environment again, so you can see how they react from the outside. It is also quick, which means you can write down what you see and then you can identify unexpected behaviours at a later time. Disclosed observation is a type of observation where the observer is a participant in the activity and everyone is aware of their role and why they are there. They will ask permission to observe the rest of the group or individual, for example, being another gymnast and being involved within their training sessions, but the whole group is actively involved in the research. So they might go around and ask specific people questions just to get a better idea of what the session involves. So they might, if they're looking at performing their core, the researcher might go around and ask the participants what core exercises they prefer, what they don't like, how the correct ways to do them, when they generally train core, things like that. Those knowing that they are being watched may change the way they act, and researchers may misunderstand what they are seeing, so there is low validity within this. But the researchers are also, on the other hand, able to observe in more detail if he or she is working within the group. On the other hand, undisclosed observation is where the participants are not fully aware that they are being studied and the researcher's role is carried out undercover. They will take a false identity and role, usually posing as a genuine member of the group, for example, becoming another member of the gymnastics team again, to observe characteristics within the group to see if this affects performances. Advantages to this include that they are able to see the athletes in their natural setting and see if their true behaviours and emotions. However, ethically, researchers need permission to observe the individuals, and so with this they do not have permission, so it is ethically wrong. Also, if the research becomes too involved, they may lose objectivity and become biased. Quantitative researchers aim to identify different behaviours in different settings and contexts through gaining numerical data. It is used to test a theory and then either support or reject it, and this is done mainly through experiments in field or labs or in a lab and questionnaires. Lab-based experiments involves collecting data in an environment where all the variables and conditions are controlled, so that you are only measuring the variables in the question. An advantage to this is that it is a high internal validity, as you know what is taking place in a controlled condition, so you know that you are only measuring the aspect you mean to measure. This also means because you are using lab technology, variables will be easier to control or manipulate. On the other hand, this means costs of training on how to use the equipment will be expensive, and the equipment itself will have high costs to it. Also, lab-based data will have low levels of ecological validity because the data is not collected in an environment that reflects the situation in which the activity is performed. Field-based experiments is data which is collected in the environment that stimulates the one in which the sport is played. So this is an advantage because it gives a real-life representation of the sport, and so you can claim ecological validity in this setting. It's also a lot cheaper, making it more accessible for people without resources. However, due to the environment, you cannot control all the variables, and so internal validity is low. Also, certain conditions such as weather are unpredictable and uncontrollable, which may affect the experiment. Observations through notational analysis is the study of movement patterns, strategy, and tactics in team sports. This is good because it can identify strengths and weaknesses as you can video and annotate the observation and interpret the different areas for improvement. You can also compare between the performances. On the other hand, you might miss behaviours because you are concentrating on watching for the whole length of time. For a team, you will need several researchers to observe, which is not very practical as this takes time.